Jordan Peterson. One of the most articulate men I have ever seen. To me, how I look at Jordan is, most men of his age does not have the drive to do so many things. That guy dealt with so much stress, so many debates on live television with completely masculine women, like the worst kind of women. Being a psychology professor in Canada, the country that has completely gone woke, he could have just shut up, retire and just live on a farm and just live healthy. But he chose to do all of these things because I think there is a drive in him. And that is very impressive. And then I saw what he eats and everything started to make sense. Just eats red meat and salt. He doesn't eat anything else. He's on a carnivore diet. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't suggest carnivore diet, but that makes a lot of sense why his mind is so clear, how he's so driven and all that. Now, if you're trying to eat right, you need to understand that there is so much propaganda going on in the world right now. Like so many different opinions, so many different advice that is completely messing people's thought process towards food. And this video will help you dodge through those lies and manipulations. So I haven't watched this video yet. This video is called Why the Modern Diet is Making You Sick. I'll leave a link to the original video in the description. You guys can check it out. Let's get into it.
So let's talk about lifestyle modification.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about government subsidy, let's say, and the food pyramid, the original food pyramid, and how it was developed, because there's a story that'll curl your hair. Oh, it's so appalling.
Oh, it's vile.
It's so appalling. It's just, you can't read that without, what would you say? It's like a traumatic loss of naivety to believe that something that catastrophic could have been consciously perpetrated, yet it was.
It was.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Okay, so lifestyle change. So we think of the typical supermarket, okay? Now, people have often been counseled to eat around the edges, right? Don't go in the middle of the supermarket. Why? Because that's where all the processed food is. Well, is the problem processing? I don't think the problem is processing. The problem is all processed foods are emergency, hypercaloric, glucose-centric foods. Right, so they should be, they're like when you come across a beehive. They're not to eat every day. So you go around the edges and you eat. Well, and you tell me if you disagree with any of this, because we want to make it simple for people, right? So you stay away from the processed foods because they're too high in concentrated carbohydrate and sugar. Fundamentally. Now, there may be other reasons to avoid them as well. The chemicals that are in them, the fact that they've been designed to be addictive, etc. But to me, that's trivial compared to the fact that, no, mostly they're just the equivalent of sugar. Okay, now you graze around the edges. That means the kinds of vegetables you don't really like, right? Dairy, including butter, including yogurt, all of that. So that's food that people actually like. Not sweetened yogurt, no sugar. Stay away from the damn.
By the way, the guy he is talking to is Bikman. I know most people don't know him, but he's a fucking G when it comes to fucking nutrition.
Sugar. Meat, and that's about that, fundamentally. Right. And definitely don't drink soft drinks.
No, it's absolutely. I mean, you don't want your food to come from, the less you are able to formulate a diet where your food isn't coming from bags and boxes with barcodes, the better off you're going to be. And the way you just described it, you've done it. To me, I mean, first and foremost, we have more in common with a wolf, digestively speaking, than we do our closest animal relative like chimpanzees or apes or any other primate. If you look at the digestive system,
chimps spend 8 hours a day chewing.
They have to eat constantly because it is such a nutrient deficient diet. Their colon, their large intestine is
Basically, what they mean is that what we are supposed to eat has been hijacked to a point where people are not eating what we are supposed to eat. And in a way, the way I put it in a straightforward, simple solution is that eat single ingredient foods.
Substantially bigger than the humans because they have to ferment so much. Moreover,
and brain comparatively smaller.
Very small brain, very big intestines.
And that's the vegan evolutionary pathway, by the way.
And you want to shrink your brain, remove animal sourced foods from it, and you'll be like your other primate cousins and start to shrink your brain. But unfortunately,
that is a very hard confirmation bias hitting me, because I always say that. And human beings prioritizing meat is the reason why we are where we are today. We are the most supreme species on this planet, all because we ate meat, which increased our brain size literally. Now vegans want to reverse that. This is why I always say, if you're a vegan, you are either extremely dumb or you're extremely evil.
You don't have the colon to ferment as much as they do. Moreover, you're probably not prepared to eat your own feces, which is what they'll do to get vitamin B12. A purely plant-based diet is so deficient in nutrients, it is utterly incompatible with the human survival, let alone human reproduction. I consider it, in fact, I feel so strongly about this that I actually consider it to be quite devilish or overtly satanic, that I think of, if you'll allow me to invoke some scripture, we often talk about Christ's great commandments, love God, love your neighbor. And yet there was a commandment that preceded those, which was God's commandment to Adam and Eve, be fruitful, multiply and replenish the earth. That was the first commandment. And the older I'm getting, as both a man of religion and of science, I sort of use that commandment as my litmus test. If this is an ideology or a principle or a practice that is going to make it harder for people to reproduce,
there's something fundamentally
then there's
wrong
something
with it.
wrong with it, and I must reject it. And so even when it comes to diet,
reproductive capacity is species health across generations, right? It's the equivalent of health,
Yes.
except across generations.
Yes.
So obviously anything that's anti-reproduction in its essence is...
I think the way we have the left and the right, like politically speaking, I don't think there is left and right. I personally think there is either pro-humans or anti-humans. It's a better way to see it. I'm pro-human. It all comes down to human. If some animals are being hurt, I don't mind if it is good for the humans. The vegan diet, which is directly, you can link it to people not being able to have kids. Again, maybe eventually you will have kids because of the IVF and all that shit, but it is pretty evil.
There isn't anything more pathological.
yeah, whether you invoke God, whether the commandment to Adam and Eve, or whether you invoke evolution, whose great design is to just have an advantage to reproduce, you all come back to reproduction.
See, one of the things I'm seeing on the Maha side is that it's difficult to bring unity to the field of preventative medicine. I mean, many people are concentrating on the panoply of chemicals that are in like Fruit Loops. And fair enough. Like, fair enough. But for me, the problem with a Fruit Loop is that it's basically just a sugar lump.
Oh, you and I are totally aligned on this. You have to manage your macros. All the other micro stuff, that matters a little, but if your macronutrients aren't aligned, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and I have rules for each of them, then all that other stuff is fluff.
Yeah, it's noise, essentially.
It's noise.
Yeah,
It'll move the needle a little, but not enough to do anything.
Well, and then the thing is, if you're only able to fight one battle at a time, you better fight the right battle.
That's right.
And it seems to me, now, it's also the case that there's no recommended daily allowance for carbohydrates.
Yeah, oddly enough.
I know, that's very odd. So expand on what that means.
Yeah, so it's odd for multiple reasons, including I consider it the most pathogenic because of everything we've been describing, but it's also the one that is utterly unessential. You appreciate this, but most people don't. Even within the United States, the Department of Agriculture years ago had a statement where it says something like, I'm going to loosely quote it, the lower limit of dietary carbohydrates is 0.
Right. Zero's a low limit.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty low number.
That's for sure.
And yet, that's the one you tell me to eat the most of, born from the food guide pyramid in its ill-fated ideology, or born from the modern obsession, sort of a pseudo-religious view that we can't kill anything, and what a naive view. Life is death.
It's actually very weird for me to watch this because I've stopped watching a lot of diet-related or nutrition-related videos on YouTube. I stopped all of that because I've understood that that is all a psyop too. So we have to figure out a way to connect the dots and have our own self-thinking. And most people don't have a positive approach to this because why do I trust you? To me, it's like if I'm able to articulate it and put it in a certain way and explain it to you, you also think about it and try to connect the dots. If it makes sense to you, you can follow it. You don't have to worry about it too much because this is what I tell my friends and my family. I want the best for my people. If vegan diet was the best diet out there, I would advise that to all my friends and family. But it's not. And it is pretty hard to, put it out there. The reason why I said it's weird watching this video is because it is hitting my confirmation bias on the top. Like, if you watch all my videos, you would see this. And The way he's talking about carbohydrates, go and watch my video where I spoke about carbohydrates. I'll leave the video where I spoke about carbohydrates in the description, and I'll leave a link to one of my video where I spoke about vegan in the description.
Everything that is alive benefits because something died before it, and we benefit from all of that stuff. So we have this kind of perverse, shifted view of nutrition where we focus on carbohydrates. The one thing we literally don't need to eat it. There's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate, and yet 70% of all calories globally come from carbohydrates. So
they do have the advantage of being cheap in the short run.
Yeah,
you know, and
especially if it's subsidized, it's cheap.
Yeah, well,
for the person
that's
who's
a separate
purchasing it.
issue.
I don't like interrupting these guys, so I'm going to watch it all and I'm going to give my advice at the end of this video. The perfect diet out there. The diet that will make you look the best, feel the best, and perform the best.
Like, because you could imagine, you know, humanity's been solving a sequence of problems. And one problem, and it was real, was there just wasn't enough calories. Okay, so you probably want to address that so people don't starve. And fair enough. And maybe you can address that more cheaply with corn than with beef. Okay, and so there, we've given the devil his due, but that doesn't mean that that constitutes an optimized diet. And that's where I think the people who created the food pyramid were criminal. Criminal.
Yeah.
Because the story, and this is a story you're fleshing out, is that the base of the pyramid, so that's where you get the bulk of your calories, according to the hypothetically scientific guidelines of the government, which were never scientific in the least, right from the beginning.
See, the thing is, human evolution is nothing but humans solving problems. But we will never run out of problems. Like, there will always be more problems. If people are not aware of the problems that are going to come in the future, by fixing this problem that we have right now, the solution that we selected for this problem is not the best solution. So we have to look way ahead into the future, look at all the problems that might come from fixing this, then we will be able to pick the right solution for this problem. Now, when it comes to food, right, human population was going up drastically, and it is not easy to kill so many animals, hunt so many animals and eat. We need cheaper food, and cheaper food is carbs, rice, wheat. It's easy to grow because we had so much land. Then agriculture started. In a way, you know, kind of don't want to say this, but carbs are peasant food. It's for poor people. You have to figure out a way to get rich to a point where you eat meat every single day.
Is that's where you should derive the bulk of your calories.
Yes.
And then fats and meat are a tiny element of that.
Yeah, no,
and they knew from what I've seen in my investigations, is that the people who designed that bloody pyramid were told by their own scientists that they were going to produce an epidemic of obesity and diabetes.
Yeah, Dr. Philip Handler was the president of one of the leading scientific societies in the United States at the time. And I'm going to loosely quote him, but he says, what right has the federal government to conduct such a grand experiment with the population of the United States as its test subject? That it had never been done.
With no control.
No, that's right. It had never been done.
And no consent.
And look at what's happened. People want to blame meat for all what ails us, which talk about an insane ideology. But you look at red meat consumption from the early 1900s till now, it's been a steady decline. And yet what's happened to heart disease, even at the superficial 30,000-foot view, blaming meat for the ills of these diseases of civilization, these plagues of prosperity, it makes no sense.
Well, now we've got the bloody greens who are doing the same thing. And, you know, the globalist utopian vision, this is the C40 vision. This is a consortium of municipalities all around the world, including many of the world's biggest cities. They want a 95% reduction in meat consumption. That's not all. 95% reduction in private automobile ownership.
Oh, yes, of course.
A one short-haul flight per person every 3 years.
Oh, my.
3 items of clothing per year.
That sounds like a perfect way to enslave people.
Oh, it's just beyond comprehension. But the meat element is particularly egregious as far as I'm concerned, because there are forms of agriculture that are meat-intensive, that revivify soil, and the idea that that's contributing to something like a climate catastrophe, that I can't imagine a stupider lie than that one. Although there are some.
It is tragic because, for multiple reasons, just as a fun aside, when studies in men have shown that if man stops eating meat, saturated fats in particular, his testosterone plummets, his sperm production plummets. Like this is antithetical to human production.
Wouldn't you think that that's an evolution, that's a biological sign of scarcity?
Yes, that's right.
Well, it's no bloody wonder that you
don't reproduce.
Don't reproduce now because all you have to eat is broccoli.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Guys, that is really true. Like, I never used to eat a lot of red meat. I used to eat eggs and chicken because chicken is like easy to cook, cheaper and stuff like that. And the moment I started eating red meat, my drive has gone up like crazy. The meat that I get is like, it has a lot of fat in it. The more fat that I eat, the better I feel. I do a lot of things in a day and I need a lot of energy to do all these things. Not just physical energy, it's also the mental energy. And saturated fats has fucking been a game changer for me. Oh man, what a fucking video. It's actually a feel-good thing for me watching this video because when it comes to food, right, I take this shit very seriously because to me it feels like I've had my eyes closed for a very long time and I've now opened it. And now I just want everybody else to open their eyes. Man, the things that go on with food, like when it comes to the advice and the way people have opinions over food and the way people eat, and people underestimate the amount of impact food has on your daily life. The way you look, the way you feel, the way you perform, everything about you comes down to the food that you eat. It is very, very, very important to make sure you're eating the right thing or at least be conscious of what's going on in your mouth. So here's my thing. Here's my diet advice. This is what I eat. This is what I suggest to my friends and family. I have created this diet called SIMS diet. SIMS, which means single ingredient macro split diet. It has two parts to it. Single ingredient and macro split. Now, single ingredient is eat only single individual ingredients. Like if you have a plate, you have meat, you have eggs, and then you have avocado. That's 3 ingredients. You get the idea, have individual ingredients on the plate. Now, the second part of the SIMS diet is macro split. Macros are proteins, fat, and carbohydrates. You need to have a split. 80-20 is the perfect split for fat loss. 80% from essential nutrients like proteins and fats, like all the animal products. And the 20% should come from carbs. And when it comes to carbs, you need to pick the right carbs. Single ingredient again, like fruits. Fruits are always good. If you eat animal products and fruits, right? Animal products, when I say animal products, I mean meat, eggs, fish, butter, ghee, tallow, all that stuff. And if you eat fruits with it, that's it. And forget about the advice, opinions and all that stuff. Why don't you try it? Try it and tell me it doesn't change your entire fucking life.